Ready? Yeah. How many heard or watched the video Truth and Facts? How many had a chance to watch it? What did you the purpose of that was to teach you not to look at things on the surface, but to go for the what? The depth, the greater reality, right? Because from God's perspective, it's when we think about God, we've got to understand He doesn't have ears. He doesn't hear what we say. He doesn't have eyes. He doesn't see what we look like. That's irrelevant to God. All God detects and can perceive is what? Our heart, our what? Soul, and what? Now, we have a hard time perceiving that in others because we're caught up on the externals. Is that making sense? We're locked in the visible, tactile, auditory realm where the majority of our brain only receives that way. And we don't start to think what's behind the actions, what difficulties they're going through. And we don't, hi, you all right? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay. And you walk away. Wait a minute, that's not the way it works. There's more involved here. There's more to it. Is that making sense? So what the Word's going to do as you get more and more having God's thoughts, God's images, God's priorities, is it takes you out from a very limited scope, like looking through a paper towel roll, you know, that's how you see world, like this. And it opens it up to a greater perspective where not only are you seeing greater, but you're also seeing above, behind, you're seeing the motive, you're seeing the whole world becomes much greater than you ever imagined. Because you're not only looking at a two-dimensional person or an object or a situation, you're seeing it in 4 dimensions. Does that make sense? Because it's in a state of change, it's being influenced by its input, and you would have to adapt because you don't know the last time you saw them, what went through their minds, what they watched, what they listened to, who they talked to. We don't know. So we have to be aware of the complexity of life, not just saying, are you okay? Yeah, okay, good. That's not how it works. There's much more depth to it, right? Has anyone have a situation where one person was fine and then the next couple of days later, they're totally, like, really messed up? Anyone have that experience? Now, that happens to me all the time. It's like nothing new. But nobody stays the same. And you can't expect anyone to stay the same. They could change that fast because of their input, what they've seen, what they heard, what they watched, what they think about, what is given to their mind. So from the Word of God's perspective, you don't look at what they say or how they act. You look at the what? What? You look at the heart, right? Their perception of what? Reality. You look at their what? Identity, their soul. How were they fitting? Because when their environment changes, then they have to adapt their identity to that reality. Does that make sense? And some people don't want to adapt. And they refuse that reality, and then they go strange. Is that making sense? So in this state right now, what I'm going to cover is advanced. It's for those who Jesus was teaching at the Matthew level, not the Luke, not the Mark, but the Matthew level. These are for apostles and prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers, that higher hierarchy, not those who are just like, I don't know if I want to stand on the Word of God or not. That's not what this is for. So, you're all ready? Seatbelts attached? I'm going to take you to a high altitude. 20,000 feet. We'll be traveling 350 miles an hour. Make sure your tray is in the upright position. Seatbelts are buckled, and we are ready for takeoff. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the greatness of your word, and I thank you for you helping me be my best for your people, to truly lift their hearts, their souls, and to be able to perceive from your perspective, to see themselves from above and not from below, to see themselves able and capable beyond their imaginations, because they are your dwelling place. I thank you for helping me to help them recognize that and what their potential is as we all walk together in your shadow, in the footsteps of your firstborn from the dead, our risen and returned Lord Jesus, your anointed. Okay, now I'm going to start with a story. Once upon a time, no, it's not a once upon a time thing. What we're going to start off with is I'm going to take you back in time, right? We're going to go back in time, and I'm going to take you to basically New York City in 1941. And there on the fourth floor is a real predicament. This is Strategic Analysis Group. They deal with the problem that is occurring in Europe. Now, what's happening in Europe? Well, there's a war going on since 1936 all the way up. This is 1941. The stuff has hit the fan. All the nations now, except the United States, is in the war. We are assisting England, who's getting their asses royally kicked by the Germans, and we've got to figure out how we can help them without entering the war. And the answer is we're not going to be able to, because come December of 41, our ships will be bombed, and we will enter the war without, there's nothing we can do about it. So at this point in 1941, we're trying to decide how to stop the German advance, because they're going to, and if it continues this way, in 6 months, they will take over all of Europe. And it's like clockwork. They're so precise. So you ready to begin? All right, so let's begin. The subject of this matter is survival bias. Now, what you're looking at is the Wellington bombers. These are bombers that were sent over into Germany during the first phases of the war. And England was so confident they could take out the Germans. Well, Germans had an advantage. They had radar. No one else did. Germans also had sonar, which no one else had. They also had advanced submarines, which no one else had. They also had long-range guns that could go beyond the horizon, which no one else had. So the Germans were way, way advanced than anybody was ready for. So here they go. They send 22 aircraft over, first wave, and only 12 make it back. They didn't even penetrate the German lines. They got obliterated. Second wave, less than half returned. Third wave, fourth wave, each one, and it took them so long to build the airplanes. They get them up, they send them over, and the German radar picks it up. The long-range guns fire, and before they can even make it to the German coast, they get blown out of the sky. They could barely even make it by the time and then not to mention the German Messerschmitts were just chopping them, just tearing them to shreds. And they were like, what the heck? So they asked the United States for assistance, because they're our allies, but they're not, we don't want to enter the war. So we gave them the best of our scientists. Now back then, guess what, did we have computers? Yes. They were the kind of computers that they're not silicon, they're meat-based computers. They had slide rules, and they wrote on a piece of paper with pencils. And that's all they were. There was only the brain power of human beings, and they were called computers. And as we entered into the war, most of the computers we had were female. They were women. You might want to look that up. You'll find it very interesting. But these were women who were mathematically inclined. And there's 14 specific women who were extraordinary at math, and they became the United States Defense Research Group, because they could calculate everything, and they were brilliant in their minds. A lot of women here, we have that brilliant people here. Nobody raises their hand? Okay, anyway. Yeah, there's a movie came out about it. That's right.
Hidden Figures.
Hidden what?
Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures. I think that's a little bit too much, because they got extraordinary benefits. Despite the fact what the movie may have said, these were highly honored women. Because, pardon? No, Hollywood does not convey things. It's popular. Anyway, political correctness. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to pretend you're the head of the Strategic Research Group, okay? SRG. So I'm going to present you with this problem, okay? Now, what we're all going to decide is we need to find out where these aircraft are being hit. If they make it back, right? If they make it back, we want to know where the damage is being done? Yes or no? If we're going to try and make these things survive coming across into Germany, we want to find out where they're getting hit, because they're using all kinds of weapons, and they're using everything from the 20 millimeters to the rockets and to everything. We want to know what's taken the bombers down. Now, I know someone said, well, just call up the Germans and ask them. They're not going to tell you. The fighters aren't going to tell you what they're doing, nor are the gunners. So we have to figure out what's going on without asking them, because they're not going to tell them. Or if they do tell them, it won't be the truth. So the question is, what they did is they had a drawing, whether it be a Lancaster or a Wellington or a B-17, which is our aircraft that we lent out at first, and then finally we joined the war after December. But nonetheless, every single aircraft was being obliterated before they even made it to the coast of Germany to hit their targets. They'd just been wiped out of the sky. So it's like, what the heck is going on? So what they did is that they passed out papers to the crew and said, when you make it back, when you do after you come in, they ask you what you did and how you did and how many targets you hit. Pardon? You fill out your reports, right? That we want you to go around the airplane, and they gave an actual drawing of each airplane, and they made multiple copies of it, and they said, go around and pinpoint where the damage on your aircraft is before the ground crew patch it up. So they would sit there and they'd mark it. They go around the airplane, mark it every time, bullet holes, whatever they had, what size they were, and they got all this on paper. And then what they do is they took it and they all put it together onto one paper so they could see where the damage is being done. Because the only solution they could figure is to put armor where the damage is, so it would not be so what? Okay, you would put armor where there's most what? Vulnerability, right? Is that making sense? Everybody go like this? Okay, good. All right, so we're going to look at that. Now, there is the damage that was done. They make it back, they look like Swiss cheese. So now understand, putting armor on is a little bit intense here. I don't care if it's a Wellington, a Lancaster, B-17. The problem is, the more armor you put on here, the more it can't take off. Because it's got to carry bombs too. If you put too much armor on there, it can't carry any bombs, or it won't be able to get off the ground. So you have a very limited amount of armor you can put on this. Where do you put the armor? You're the generals. I'm sorry? Wings and tail. Wings and tail. All right, anyone else? Right? The front? Why? There's no damage there. Pardon? How many agree with what she said, that it should go on the wings and tail? Nobody but her? All right, now what we got right here is a man by the name of Abraham Walt, who was a statistician from Austria, who was assisting the research group, turned around and said, what the hell are you doing? Do not put armor where the holes are. These are the aircraft that what? Survived. You put armor where the holes are, you're not going to see that airplane again. So what's going on? This is the airplane that what? Survived. What about the ones that didn't? What about the ones that didn't survive? We don't know about that group. They didn't make it what? So obviously, where these holes are, it's not going to bring the aircraft down. It's where the holes what? Aren't. That brings the aircraft down. No airplane with holes in the engine, the forward fuselage, or the starboard engine, or this section of the tail made it back who had any wounds there. The ones that get here, 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 they made it back. But the ones that got hit, whoops, wrong place. They got hit here, they didn't make it back. Or if they got hit here, they didn't make it back. Or if they got hit in the canopy where the pilot is and the nose gunner, they didn't make it back. And most of all, the deadliest one is this section here. Because that's the weakest section. If you nail that, the airplane just spirals and goes into a circle and falls. And there's no armor on any of these. So his name is Abraham Walt, and he sat there and said, don't put any armor where the holes are, because if they hit those areas, airplane's coming back. But if they hit these areas, the airplane is not coming back. And everybody just sat there and went, whoa, because they were going to put armor where the holes were. It's just the opposite of what you and I would think. What are we looking at? A sample. Now, she said the forward fuselage, right? Canopy. But what's fascinating about this is we always default with our default assumption. We have this automatically. We're so intelligent. We can figure it out. And we do this snap judgment. Remember I taught you about that? What happens when you make a snap judgment without thinking it? Remember I taught you about if the bat and the ball is $1.05 and the bat is $1 more, how much is the ball? Remember that? And you just bang. It's $1.10. No, it's $1. It's $5. Anyway. All right, now you guys stop and think. All right? That if you didn't have a brain, the ears would be touching each other, right? We don't want that. We need to use our brain. All right. So understanding that this problem is what's called survival bias. Okay, everybody repeat after me. Survival bias. And this is the default assumption we go into because we can see where the damage is. But what subset are we examining? The ones that what? Returned. Not the ones who didn't come back. So all the ones that returned were the ones that got Swiss cheesed on their wings, mid-fuselage, and the tail. And notice there's nothing on either one of those three. That means if they got hit there, they didn't make it back. Do you understand the difference here? Brain, whenever you get ideas, you think someone presents something to you, what about the missing data? What about the missing data? What data is missing? Never accept what someone throws at you. Always examine what is it that's not being revealed. And how do we determine it? Does everybody see how that works now? Those that got hit here, here, here did not what? Return. That's why there was no damage on the returning aircraft in these areas. How many feel smarter already? Right? Okay. Now let's examine. Y'all got this now? You want to see the rest of the data, right? Your data set needs to be complete, not a subset. You want it to be the full set of data. All right, here we go. Ready? Now I want you to see if you can catch it. Who, what, why? How do cats survive falls from great heights? This is from BBC. A cat in the U.S. city of Boston. Ever heard of that city? Right. Yes. One of those foreign cities, right? Survived a fall from a 19-story building. A window, rather. Only bruised her chest. How do cats survive falls from such great heights? Keep in mind what I showed you already. The cat's owner, Brittany Kirk, a nurse, I don't know why that's important, left the window open a crack on Wednesday morning to give Sugar some air. Sugar got out and either fell or leaped off the ledge and hit a patch of grass and mulch 19 stories down. An animal rescue servant found her and traced her back to Miss Kirk, through a microchip embedded in her skin. That's not embedded in Mrs. Kirk's skin, that's embedded in the cat's skin. She's a tough little kitty, Miss Kirk told the Boston Globe newspaper. Cat's remarkable ability, now read carefully. Are we getting the full subset here? Cat's remarkable ability to survive falls from great heights is a simple and predictable matter of physics. What? Does that make sense to you? Evolutionary biology, physiology, veterinarians, and biologists say. This recent story isn't much of a surprise, says Jake Scotia, a biomechanist at Virginia Tech University. We do know that animals exhibit this behavior, and there have been lots of records of these cats surviving. Where scientists, ready? Scientists unwilling to toss cats off of buildings for experimental observation, science has been unable to systematically to study the rate in which they live after crashing to the ground. Notice that. That's a big one right there. It has not been scientifically what? Verified. It's just supposition. Got it? In a 1987 report, I read the 1987 report. I'm weird like that. I thought this article was full of BS. So I read the report. Sure enough, they've come to the conclusion that after gaining the normal acceleration, because after the cats would have damage on the very little damage on the first, more damage on the second floor, third floor, fourth floor, real damage. The most damage to a cat was on the sixth floor. But then, after you get to the 15th floor, cats started to survive again. And the higher up you got, the more the survivability, up to 20 floors. And someone's going to tell me a cat can do that? What did I just show you about the aircraft? Where's this article giving you? The survival, isn't it? What's it not giving you? The truth, right? Okay, what part of the truth? All right. Okay, watch carefully. Remember that the airplanes that didn't come back and the airplanes that did, right? And you assume by those who did come back that that was the damage, when it wasn't. A 1987 study of 132 cats. How many? Brought to a New York City emergency veterinary clinic after falls from high-rise buildings. Now, we're 132 cats, right? 90%. Well, if it was 100 cats, that would be 90 cats. Why don't they just say 90 cats? Or 91 cats. You see what I'm saying? It sounds really, they're really pushing this to the extreme here. So, of 132 cats that was brought to the New York City Emergency Veterinary Clinic, 90 of the treated cats survived, and only 37 needed emergency treatment to keep them alive. Doesn't say how high they fell, does it? One fell 32 stories onto concrete, suffered only a chipped tooth and a collapsed lung. Well, that's pretty intense. And was released after 48 hours. What's wrong with this picture? 132 cats. What city is this? New York. How many were brought to the city's emergency veterinary clinic after falls from high-rise buildings? How many were brought? 132. What didn't they bring? The dead ones. If ever, you understand the problem? We have a total skewed data set here. Because the only thing it's not including is the what? Now, you bring in the dead ones too and start counting it and see how many survive. Because that's totally misleading. So, so the question you want to ask is, how many cats are in New York? Yes or no? There are 500,000 cats in New York. And they all live in high rises. And it's so bad that they have to euthanize 4,000 cats every year. So when we're talking about 132 cats that they brought to the New York City Emergency Veterinary Clinic after the fall, why didn't they bring the dead ones? Because there's no use bringing them, because they're what? There's a cat spot there and another cat spot there, and there's one that's meowing. Does everybody understand the problem here? So of 500,000 cats, how many of those fell off a building? I guarantee it's more than 132 that whole year. Makes it sound good, gets you all charged up about how magnificent cats are, but in reality, it's totally distorted. Got it? Because we're missing the rest of the what? The data to make a proper assessment. So this person is making an assessment with improper data and coming to a conclusion it is not valid. Got it? Does everybody see that? Everybody go like this. Let me know you got it. How many really think that only 132 cats fell out of a building? Out of 500,000. 500,000. Bullshit. Heck of a lot more did that. It's so bad they have to euthanize 4,000 each year. That's cats that aren't damaged. They make them permanently damaged. So they go on and on and on about how the relative speed and the descending, and they get to a certain point where it's like, what? And it's all bullshit. Give me how many cats died. They don't want to tell you that. They only tell you 132 cats brought. They didn't bring the dead ones. So you see, this should not be accepted because the data set is incomplete. Does everybody see this? All right. Now, when it comes to the word, we got a problem because we're doing the same thing. We're only acknowledging things we see, things we hear, things we visualize, things that society says we're to accept. What is that? It's a hexagon, right? It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. This is a triangle, and this is a triangle. Got it? Not a pentangle. This is a hexangle. It's 6 sides. So what does this symbolize? What's it called? It's called the Star of what? The Star of David. So this is what Jesus would have wore. This is what David would have wore. This is what Abraham would have had, right? No. Where's the evidence? Well, it's on television. It's in the movies. It's wherever you go. That's the symbol for Judaism. And the answer is, no, it's not. Well, what is it the symbol of? All right, what data set are we missing? Let's go back in what? Time. How far back do we go to? Well, let's start off with the time of during the beginning of the beginning of the Iron Age with Solomon. What's this? Solomon's temple. Do you see any kind of special? No, there's nothing there. What's the symbol that represented Israel? What's the symbol that represented Israel? Oh my gosh, you're so perceptive. That's right. And you'll find that one of the greatest discoveries they had was the scepter of the high priest, which also had on his scepter a what? And that we found. And that's from the first temple period. And that is written in pre-Babylonian captivity script, which means it came from here. Isn't that cool? Look at this. Look at this. Look at that, right? The symbol during the first temple period is the what? Pomegranate. And give yourselves an applause. Oh, I'm so happy you're sharp. All right. So now let's fade out and bring it a little bit closer to the time of the second temple period, which happens to be the time of Jesus. And voila, look how big it is. It's humongous, right? Remember Peter saying, look how magnificent the temple is. Look at the height. Look at the courtyards. This thing is a magnificent thing. And Jesus said, there will not be one stone left upon another. So the question is, what? The answer is, yep. So at this time, what was the symbol? What was the symbol? Second temple period. What was the symbol for Israel? Give it 3 guesses. Ready? Can you imagine what it would be? The menorah. Remember, this is a real close facsimile to what was in the temple at that time. This is the menorah, the symbol of the Jewish faith. All right. So, ¿qué pasó? What happened to the temple and the menorah, the golden menorah? Well, you ever heard of Vespasian and his son Titan? Well, Vespasian destroyed Israel, looted the temple, and here they're sacking the menorah out of the temple. They destroyed it. So, and they wiped out everybody in Israel. So approximately, they're saying it was like 8,000 to 10,000 people were butchered that day. And then another 2,000 came within 6 months and they were wiped out. And when it came back to Jerusalem, was wiped out. Exactly as Jesus Christ said they would. Is everybody understanding this? So what the heck is this? How did this wind up as a symbol of Israel? How did this happen? Anybody like to know, or everybody already knows? Anyone curious? No one's, only 2 people are curious. Okay, everybody close. Oh, we have 4 or 5 more curious. Anyone else curious? All right, for those who aren't curious, plug your ears so you don't hear it and look down. All right, where did we get this from? Well, this was never originally a Jewish symbol. It was a symbol of a country called Khazaria, and that was the symbol of their nation. And here you can see the Mediterranean Sea. Here's the Caspian Sea. Here's the Red Sea. So here, the Dead Sea. So here we see this area right here. It goes all the way down to just touching this part. This was called Khazaria, and for 300 years it was the most powerful nation in the world. Now, how did this happen? Well, if you look and you do some research, like if you get with the Kessler's 13th tribe, you will find out how this came to be. Because when Rome wiped out everyone in Jerusalem, word got out really quick, and the Jews did not go back to Jerusalem. They had no place to go, so they went this way. And this is where they settled. This was a trading route between Persia and the Roman Empire. So all goods and services passed through here, and this was like a big, big center of commerce. So most people didn't want to enter into Rome or any of the Roman Empire because the taxes kept multiplying as you went. So they went to Khazaria. There was only one tax, entry tax and exit. That's it. You came in their country, came out, and you went right into, you could go from here directly into Rome without having to go through this, which would have been extremely expensive. So these were, now understand the Jews, of all the people on earth, the Jews could read and write, right, and speak in anywhere from 3 to 5 languages. They were extremely excellent at math. So how valuable were they? Everybody wanted them. Everybody wanted to have some Jews. Because, when Khazaria went there, they appeared before the Khazar, and he made them his vizier, and he put him in charge of the country. And he set the taxes, he did accounting, he did everything, and he trained other members of the country to worship the true God through Israel. The time came when the Khazar himself said, I want to be Jewish, and he circumcised him and gave him the name of David. What did they worship? In 740 AD, they're converted. And what was the symbol they worshipped? Not that. That. And since that's all the remaining Jews lived there, Khazarian Jews is what we have today. Got it? Where'd the yarmulke come from? Did David wear a yarmulke? Did Abraham wear a yarmulke? No. So what's the yarmulke all about? When they were teaching, when they converted the whole country into Judaism, the people they wanted to keep their helmets on in case they were attacked, because they were always being attacked by the north, by the west, by the east, and they always wanted to be ready for fighting. So as a result, they kept their helmets on. They would go into the synagogue, and the Jew rabbis would just like, no, you can't come in with a helmet on. And they said, well, we're not going to go in then. So they all protested to the Khazar guys, okay, leave your helmets outdoor, but keep your helmet lining on. That way you could quickly mount your helmet. All the yarmulke is a helmet liner. So you might want to do some research on it. It's really good. Russia has the most research on this, and it's really extraordinary. There've been a lot of research, a lot of archaeological digs in that area, and translations from Arabic, and in fact there's communications between the Khazarian and Arabia, Saudi Arabia, Damascus, Spain, Cordoba to be exact. So now you know. Aren't you glad? All right, now here's the humdinger. What's this? Does everybody know what this is? Now you know, because that was in my previous class, right? You know, right? And the answer is terminus. That's right. It's a boundary marker. Which way does the boundary go? It goes that way and this way. It's just a what? Boundary marker. That's it. Where's the boundary line? It goes from here to there. It goes this way. And there'll be another one way over there with the arms directly pointing to it. So you know that this is the boundary. A lot better than trying to draw a big yellow line. Right? You set up the boundary stones. So this goes back to 180 BC, all the way up to 320 AD. This was like prevalent before the Roman Empire took over. But when we look at this, this is what they look like. And you can see wherever the Celts had the boundary stones, that's where it was. So the Germans, the Vikings all had their own boundary stones. And here's the Roman boundary stone, which is known as terminus. You see the cross here and the shape. Just a boundary stone. Now this is interesting. Is this the symbol of Christianity? Is that the symbol of Christianity? Well, aside from putting the little letters in there, which are nice, but if you didn't have the letters, has this ever been done before? Yes, it's usually upright. How many ever go to Starbucks? What's the little creature there you see? The mermaid, that's right. The shape is like that, and she's got both her tails up in her hands. And then they cover that one part between her legs. That's the mother symbol. Mary worship comes from Diana worship, and she's got that symbol right at her pelvic area, I guess. That's the symbol she's got, and it goes up and down. And she's got it right there. So everybody worshiped this, especially those who worship Diana, Artemis, all the ones, and became eventually the symbol for Mary. So, and people worshipped it. It's like, that's ducky. So the pagans did too. So it has nothing to do with Christianity whatsoever. Got it? Now, when Constantinople forced everybody into, no matter what you did, just now call yourself a Christian and rename all your stuff you do and all the things you have and everything's fine. Well, they just put this in there and then now it's good and they can still keep the same symbol. Got it? There's nothing Christian about any of this stuff. Now here's the Viking runes. The Viking, there's that, goes from here to there. So you know, and there'll be another one over here. So you know that you can stand on this and look them all. You can see the boundary. Got it? So there's the boundary. And by the way, that's Odin's cross. Has nothing to do with Christianity. Odin's cross. And it's where we get our word Odin's Day or Wednesday. Got it? That's Odin's Day. All right. So, if I asked you, what is the true Christian symbol, what would your answer be? The Bible? Not everybody in the first century could afford one. What would you say would be the perfect Christian? What symbol did Jesus carry around? What symbol did Abraham carry around? What symbol did David carry around? Because if you walked up to Abraham and said, see, I got a cross, he sits there and goes, that's nice. Or you sit there and say, hey, look, fish. He would go, that's nice. And just kind of move away from you. Well, I've got a terminus, or I got a boundary stone. It's like, so what? It's very ancient. It goes to 8,000 years this stuff was being used. Way before Christ. Way before. Did I tell you way before Christ? I mean way before Christ. So what's the Christian symbol? The real deal. You can guess. I'll let you guess. Just don't guess outside of here, okay? Kind of hard, yes? The stars? Why would the stars be the symbol? Huh? A wheat? There's a good yes, that was a common symbol in what we call Asia Minor. They used wheat a lot to symbolize it, but it wasn't standard. But I'm going to show you the standard, right? And the problem is, when I show it to you, it will amaze you. You ready? So, this is the phrase, yoked together. Yoke together. Now, what image can you use for that? Now, watch carefully. We're going to go through and explain each one of the usages, right? Matthew 6:24. Then said Jesus unto his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself, deny his own identity, and take up his starus. Here it says cross, it's translated cross, but it's the word starus, and follow me. Matthew 11:29-30. Take my what? Yoke. This and this is the same thing. They have different names, but they are the same thing. Take my yoke upon you and learn of what? Me. For I am meek, which means humble, and lowly. I don't exalt myself above others. And you shall find rest to your what? Souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is what? Light. Is he joking? Does he really want us to take up the yoke with him? The answer is what? Yes. But what is this man? What about cross? It's the same thing. It's talking about the same thing. They're both talking about the same what? Thing. Got it? For my yoke is easy, my burden is light. So what are we talking about? Well, first of all, cross is starus, right? Starus. Everybody say, when I point to, I want you to say starus. Ready? Go. Starus, right? That's all it is, starus. It just means a pale, stake, or pole. Bang. That's it. A yoke is zygos. That's what, when you're using a stauros as a yoke, it is called a zygos. Got it? It's still an upright paler stake, but you're laying it across the heads of two what? Oxen. Not sheep, because they don't plow with a darn, right? You put it on top of two what? Oxen. Now, in 1 Peter 2:24, who his own self bore our sins in his own body on the what? Tree. Now, this is talking about a tree, which is a different word. Xylon is a tree trunk. It's just the trunk of the tree. These are all talking about a thing that's about the same thing, but it has different what? Purposes. One is used as a stauros, as just a stake or a pole. The other one is used as a what? A yoke. And the other one is used for putting people to death. But it's the same what? Thing. Got it? So let's look at the execution of what's called a tree trunk, which is still just the xylon. This is a xylon, right? This isn't, the Roman execution is shown this figure, found to heliconasis. This is an actual, this is how people were crucified. Period. Archaeological exactness. This is it. Now, if you stole something that was extremely valuable, then you put a nail right there where the hands are crossed. If you had the intention, they caught you and it was your intention, but you didn't do anything, but it was your intention, then they nail your feet, because feet mean what? Thoughts. Hands mean what? Actions. And Christ, they said not only was his intentions evil, but also his what? Actions. They nailed both. But normally they just hang someone up there, and by exposure alone, he dies. That's why he says you hang him until what? Death. And he can hang up there, depending on his physiology. He could last, some people have lasted as much as 3 days. 3 days and 3 nights with that exposure. And that's not to mention that the birds and vultures don't come and take advantage of that situation. But that's how the Romans would do it. In fact, Nero crucified people and then lit them on fire so he'd have some light when he ate his dinner. Really nice guy. But this is what I'm focusing on. This is what's important. What's this thing right across the neck of the two oxen? What is it? It's a yoke, right? A zygos. But when you look at it, is it also a stauros? Yes, it is. It's a stauros. Is it a tree trunk? A xylon? Yes. But it has a purpose, not to just be sitting there as a xylon, but it's not there just to be a stauros. It's to be a what? A yoke. Same thing, but has different what? Purposes, and therefore the name changes to protect the innocent. All right, so what's this thing called? It's a yoke, right? But if it were removed from them and just standing up, it would be a what? A stauros, right? If it was up there and it was still, if the tree was still there, the tree, like right here, you can see the knobs, right? That would be the tree. Got it? But he was crucified on a stauros, which means it wasn't like a telephone pole. They just nailed him, bang, and then set him up. They're not going to waste nails and stuff for that. Not an execution. So you can see what's fascinating about an oxen that's yoked together is they move their feet exactly the same. One does not get ahead of the other. They walk together perfectly. They're perfectly aligned. They move together. Now, what happens if you want to get an oxen that's a pair, you've got to take an experienced one and put it with a what? Inexperienced one, or a brand new one, or a young one. And then you tie it together and you bring them close, but not too close, but close enough so that that the older one can be taking the what? The lead to teach him how to pull what? Together. These two are what? Yoked what? Together as one. Does that make sense? And if you have only one, there's a problem, because if you look at your furrow, it's like this, because the cow does this, and you wind up with a joom, joom, joom. But if you've got two of them and it's in the middle, then you're going to get a what? Straight line. That's why a paired oxen is priceless, because and it doesn't matter what's in the road. They can go through marsh, they can go through mud. They just took, and you get them to walk together. So they're walking as if they are what? One. Everything this one does, this one immediately mirrors and copies. Got it? So they act as if they are what? One. All right. So what's this thing called? It's called a zygos, right? It's used. What this is, if it wasn't on them, it would just be a stauros. But on them, it becomes a what? Zygos. If it was just standing up there, then it would just be as plain old what? Stauros. But the moment you act on it to use it, then it changes its name. Does that make sense? There's another one. This is in Thailand. Again, the two oxen, there's the plow, and across the necks of them is a what? Stauros. Which here, as a stauros, it's becoming a what? A zygos. Has everybody got this? Does anybody else in the world understand that? Yeah, people who live in these areas and people who, but as a whole, the majority of people don't do any kind of plowing. They don't have, how many friends do you know, or you have, that have ox? How many friends you have that do plowing with ox? Now, here we go. Now, watch carefully. This is chapter 17 of John. We're going to go verse 11 to 22. And Jesus is right before his crucifixion. And now I am no more in the world, but these, he's talking about his disciples, are in the world. And I come to thee, Holy Father, keep to thine own name those whom thou hast given me, that they may be what? May be what? One, as we. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name. Those that thou givest me I've kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, which is, according to Scripture, Judas would do that. That the Scriptures might be fulfilled. And now come I to thee. And these things I speak in the world, that they might have my kadis fulfilled in themselves. Jesus says, my what? Kadis. Fulfilled where? In them. What's kadis? Identity. I have given them thy what? Word. And the world has hated. What's that word? Pardon? Right? There's that word hated isn't hated like we think of hated. What is it? Pardon? Miseo. They just like, you're foolish, stupid, it's ridiculous. That's all it means. They hear and go, that's nice. That's all it means, to hear and as if you said nothing. Has nothing to do with hate. The natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are what? Foolish none, neither can he know them, because they're what? Spiritually discerned. They don't get it. Doesn't make sense to them, so they just totally frickin' ignore you. Because they are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. I pray not that thou should take them out of the world, but, what's but mean? In contrast, but that thou should keep them from what? Evil. Give us our daily bread, and what? Lead us not into what? Temptation. That's because we know the word. We're not going to go that way. They are not of the world, as I am not of the world. Sanctify them through thy what? Truth. Thy word is what? Truth. As thou, Father, sent me into the world, even so I also sent them into the world. And for their sakes I sanctify myself, that they also might be sanctified through the truth. Neither pray I for these alone, but for them also which shall believe on me through their what? Words. That they all might be one. All might be what? One. As thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, that they also may be what? One in us. How come no one teaches this? They don't read it. Why? That is purpose. That the world may believe that thou hast sent me. And the glory, doxa, which thou gavest me, I have given what? Them. Why? Why would God give every one of us that glory that he gave Jesus? That they may be what? One, even as we are one. That's hot. Well, how do we be one with Jesus? Well, he's one with God. We're one with him. We follow his example, have his thoughts, his images, see from God's perspective, and walk with him. Being yoked together, what? With him. His thoughts, his images, his priorities. Not saying it. It has to be. Got it? Now, here's 2 Corinthians. Now, keep these in mind. Again, we're talking about what? Yoked. Who is this written to? Corinthians. Now, how many here know somebody who doesn't know the word and recognizes that you are the dwelling place of God? Anybody? They don't go, I know that God dwells in you. Get it every time, don't you? No. Anyone really recognize that you are a living saint, not because of your own work, but what God did in Christ. And they recognize that. Anyone? Nope. And yet we link ourselves, we say, we yoke ourselves to people and say, okay, I want you and me to work together. And there's going to be a problem because they don't see you as being anything special, except what they can get out of you. So, be not unequally what? Yoked together with, and that there is apistios, people that aren't applying the word or acting on it, and they're not growing and not developing. That's apistios. Don't deal with them. Why? Why? For reason, what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? All right, who's the righteous one? Them or you? Do they recognize that you're righteous? The answer is no. That you're trying to walk and become greater than yourself? Nope, never recognize it. In fact, they want you to do something that they want you to do so that you quit pretending you're holier than they are. Not holier than anybody. Got it? And what communion hath light with darkness? What are we talking about? Yoking. Well, if we're not to yoke with them, then who are we supposed to yoke with? I'm not talking about joke, I'm talking about yoke, right? And what concord hath Christ? Now here, that word Christ should be the word anointed. Because if Christ anointed, so are who? That's right. So this is a person that is not anointed of God, referring to the adversary. Like Jesus refers to the Pharisees, of your father the devil. That's the situation here. Or what part hath he that pistis with an infidel, which is apistia? Where is this connection? How does it work? The answer is what? It doesn't. Someone's going to have to lose. And what agreement hath the temple of God? What temple of God? You are the what? Temple of God. Well, what kind of God do they have? Who's their God? Who is it they say is good? How are they judging their actions or other people's actions? What's their standard? To tell you the truth, I can get along more with Shia and Sunnis than I can get along with Christians, because they're trying, and I'm impressed with them. But most Christians could care less about the Bible. As long as I got my cross on. Like, for ye are the temple of the what? All right. If I wanted to touch holy ground, I would touch you. I think I just got a spark. I want to touch something holy, I would touch you. I want to touch something holy. Ooh, burn my finger. Remember, when I was a little kid, I climbed into the church, broke into it so I could lay next to the altar. I wanted to get close to God. Now, if I want to get close to God, all I got to do is be where you are. If I want to touch something holy, I don't have to touch the altar. Because you know what's in the altar that makes it sanctified according to the RCs? Dead bones of people. There's nothing that God can work with dead. He only works with the what? The living. Ye are the temple of the living God. As God has said, I will what? Dwell in them. And what? Walk in them. What does that mean? What does walking mean? God's thoughts and what? Images. Right, God's thoughts and images. Remember? That's why when you have to worry, you think about something, you go for a walk. You go, yeah. And you take a step. And each step until you go, no. You walk again, thinking things through. That's what it means to have God's thoughts in you. And I will be their God. What's that mean? The standard. There is none good but who? God. There's no other standard of what's right. Everybody got that? I will be their God, and they shall be my what? People. People say, where's all the miracles? It's not the question. Where's the people that are supposed to be standing on God's word? That's the question. Wherefore, come out from among them and be what? What if you don't want to be separate? What if you don't want to be? You're going to have some what? Rough times. Because they're not going to see you except as something for them to use. And I kid you not. People look at you and say, what can I get from that person? It's like, you're talking about who is dwelling within you. God. Don't let people mess with you because there's a penalty involved for them. Anyone who's ever tried to screw me over, destroy what I had, or tried to undo, or even tried to kill me, 10 times worse happened to them. And I didn't have to do anything. Vengeance is mine, said the Lord. I will what? And God is not a piker on repaying it back. You don't touch God's people. And you can see that all through the Bible. You mess with God's people, there's what? Consequences. Be separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean. What does that mean, touch not the thing? Wear a glove when you go to the bathroom? No. What does it mean not to touch the unclean? Remember, before you buy something, before you make it yours, what do? How much for this? So you touch it because you want to what? Have it. You want to make it yours. To make it a part of your life. That's all touching means. Touching and what? Taste is sampling with the condition of possibly making it part of your life. If God says that's not a good idea, then it would be advisable to abide by that. Does that make sense? Well, it doesn't hurt to try it. No, God says don't even try it. Don't go there. Don't put yourself in that position. Touch not means don't try. I don't see anything wrong. Everybody says, well, don't knock it until you tried it. No, I don't want to. What was it you do with the hospital? There was a young girl there who tried to commit suicide because she wanted to see what was on the other side. That's pretty dumb. But where did she get the idea from? Watching television, movies. Well, the Word of God says when you're dead, that's it. It's over. But that's not what the movies say. It's not what television says. So if you try it, you might like it. Anything wrong with this picture? Only one's come back from the dead, and he says it's like not a good idea to die. That's why he went through all that. And be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not. Don't go the way. Don't walk out of his shadow. Bad idea. Touch not the unclean thing, and I will what? Receive you. And will be a what? Father unto you. And ye shall be my what? Sons and what? Daughters. All right? But it doesn't hurt to try it. Yes, it does. There it is. Don't try it. I will dwell in them, walk in them, and I will be their God. Their standard, what is good. How many people got more than one God? Anybody you know got more than one God? More than one standard? Everybody I talk to outside of here, they come over and bring their computers over and like, all right, I'll fix it for you. And they have multitude of gods of what's right or wrong. This is all talking about being what? Yoked. So, if you're not supposed to be yoked with the apistios, people aren't even trying or acting, then don't. But then who are you supposed to be yoked with? Supposed to be yoked with you. How many feel free that you can come over here at any time and see me? How many know that? Yeah. You can come over anytime. Well, except for you. You got to have an appointment. But you know you can. I'm to be yoked together with you and you to be yoked together with each other. This is all talking about yoke. How about fellowship? That's sharing your heart and your soul with someone else. Bad idea when the person has no concept of God and is only trying to get you to do something for them. What communion? That means unity. Two, becoming union. One. Hath light with darkness. Light and darkness don't go together. And what concord? And that is that passive movement from one to the other. Hath anointed with Belial. The answer is what? Nada. Or what part hath he that is pistis, is developing and growing and learning with the person who says there is no God? And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? The answer is what? None. So now you yoke together with Christ and bing, 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 and Christ in each other because you're all, when I say Christ, I mean anointed. Anyone here anointed? If you know someone who's anointed, raise your hand. All those who are hands raised, you're anointed. You understand? Because you can't see it in someone else until you see it in your what? In yourself. That's like the second commandment, remember? Just making sense. Now, you can try and experiment and go spend some time with people that are rank. The Bible means nothing. It's foolish or stupid. And then see what they do. They try and help you stand, or are they going to corrupt you? Just thought I'd ask. I've never seen it fail. I will dwell in them and walk in them and will be their God, and they shall be my people. No one's really seen a Christian today. You know, no one out there really gets a chance to see what a real Christian is all about. Unless you and I act on the word. Is that making sense? So calling yourself a son of God means you do this. No. So we're all talking about yoked, right? You're yoked together with who? Christ. To get to know him and to develop in alignment with him. That's why there is Luke, there's Mark, there's Matthew, and then finally what? John. Each one's a level of growth. And there it is. There's the symbol of Christianity. What did Paul say? He talks about don't muzzle the ox that treadeth the corn. Who's he referring to? Himself. He referred to himself as an ox. What did Jesus say? Take on my yoke. What's he referring to himself as? An ox. How are we looked at? We need to put on the yoke and walk with that which is the leader, which is the lead, which is Jesus. That's the symbol. So, that's the true way of life. Now I've shown you the problem, and I showed you the solution. And I gave you the answer. So the greatest place to be on earth is where you are. You are God's what?